I don't think the Rangers will ever be out of my mind. The time I've had the health to support them anytime I saw them. Unfortunately, yeah, we see more British English football than we see of Scotland. But we do see occasional games of Scotland. I certainly watch that, though. I like to see the colours. That's beautiful.
Don Kitchenbrand arrived at Ibrox in September 1955 on a recommendation from Charlie Watkins, who's a Rangers centre-back back in the mid-40s, just after the war period.
Geordie Watkins emigrated to South Africa after his playing career was over, and he saw Kitchenbrand and saw something in him as a goal scorer. And he wrote a letter to Scott Simon recommending him. Simon brought him over, had a look at him and signed him.
Unorthodox is probably the best description of him. It was applied a number of times. And in fact, one of the players that he played against said that he was so unorthodox that in trying to deal with him, it made you unorthodox as well. And that was one of the beauties of him, because he was such a handful for defenders and goalkeepers, because at that time goalkeepers weren't as protected as they are nowadays. Kitch, as he was called, was 6'2" and 12 stone, so he was formidable. I mean, he was like a heavyweight boxer, and he barged his way around, but boy, could he score goals. He scored something like 25 goals in a 4-month period, from November right through to March.
I saw him as a youngster 2 or 3 times, and I was always, the memory that lodged in my mind of him was the crowd rose to him. Rangers supporters love a wholehearted player, and Kitchenbrand was all of that.
We walked out onto the ground, and then when we came back, walked into the tunnel, Scott Simon was standing there, and he says, "Get dressed, big fella, you're playing." Well, I tell you, that's when your heart goes outside through your ears. Johnny Hubbard, George Young were playing for league that night, Scottish League. Willie Waddle played the left wing. That was his last game, Diddle Donald. And Willie was like, as I say, he was like a father to me. It was marvellous to me, Willie. Willie crossed the ball on the left wing, and I got this thing on the 18-yard line, chested it down, and I hit it with my left foot. And this ball, I'd hit this ball so hard, it hit the goalpost, and it went right over my head. And that straight away brought us into the game. We beat them 2-1 that night, and that was my first ever experience of playing in the first team.
He played 37 times for Rangers, almost all of them in that first season, and he scored 30 goals. Now, by any criteria, he made a huge impression. Those goals took Rangers to the title in Scott Simon's second season. They were 6 points ahead of Aberdeen. Kitchenbrand played 25 league games, scored 24 league goals. He scored 4 in a game against Queen of the South at Ibrox, which I have recollections of. Cannot remember the goals, but I do remember the conversation between my dad and my granddad. They both liked him for his effort, and his goal scoring was second to none over in that period. I do have a memory of him scoring 2 goals against Hearts. Again, a memory with my dad and my granddad, and Hearts had a very, very fine side at that time. Kitchenbrand also has the honour of having scored the only goal of the game in the New Year's Day game at Parkhead that season. And for Rangers supporters, scoring the winner against Celtic, particularly at Parkhead, is something that always wins a place in their hearts.
Don was a flamboyant character, and Sammy Cox and Johnny Hubbard were standing outside the ground, and they saw Kitch walking along the road, flamboyantly dressed with a lovely big hat. And at the time there was a lot of press coverage of a well-known boxer from Hawaii called Dado Marino. And as he came along, Sammy said, "Here's Dado Marino." And Johnny Hubbard says, "More like Marino," because of his South African connections. And that apparently is where the name came from. Kitch's own recollections are that Sammy said to him, "Look, you need to have a nickname. Every player has a nickname. We're going to call you Rhino." And that's what it became known as. So even in recent times, when we realised that he was alive and well in South Africa, a lot of people said, good to hear that the rhino is doing well. So he was a very popular guy around Ibrox circles and remains so to this day.
I just want to say thank you to my supporters, the Rangers supporters. While they supported me, I appreciate it, and I give them all the thanks I can.